The pickup truck was 15 years old. Rust ate away at the wheel wells like a slow cancer. The windshield had been cracked since the Obama administration. Nobody had bothered to fix it. Nobody would. It coughed to a stop at the main gate of Naval Special Warfare Training Center, Coronado. The engine died with a sound that might have been an apology. The woman who stepped out looked wrong for this place. 22 years old, long dark hair that fell past her shoulders in waves that caught the California sun. She wore a fitted olive V-neck shirt and military surplus cargo pants that looked 2 sizes too big. No rank insignia, no unit patch, nothing that said she belonged anywhere near the most elite military training facility on American soil. The guard, Petty Officer Derek Vance, looked up from his phone just long enough to smirk. "Help you, miss?" She handed a manila folder through the window. Her fingers were calloused. Strange for a civilian. "Civilian contractor, administrative support. I'm supposed to report to Building 6. Vance flipped through the paperwork with the enthusiasm of a man counting down to retirement. His partner, a stocky gunner's mate named Riley, leaned against the guard shack and laughed. "Administrative support at a SEAL base," Riley said. "What are you going to do? Alphabetize their kill reports?" "I go where they send me," she said quietly. Vance stamped her paperwork and slid a temporary badge across the counter. White plastic, red letters, visitor. The kind of badge that told everyone exactly how much she didn't matter. "Building 6 is straight ahead, 3rd left." He didn't look at her face. "Try not to get in anyone's way. The operators here don't have patience for civilians wandering around looking lost." "Thank you." She took the badge and drove through the gate. Riley watched her truck disappear around a corner. $20 says she's crying in the bathroom by lunch. "I'll take that bet," Vance said. "I give her until 10:30. They were both wrong. Alexandria Thorne had been trained to survive situations that would break most men in minutes. She had completed BUD/S at 19, the youngest woman in Naval Special Warfare history to earn the Trident. She had served with DevGru for 2 years, Syria, Yemen, a classified mission in the South China Sea that officially never happened. She had 47 confirmed kills, 3 silver stars locked in a box she never opened, and a promise to keep. But as she parked her truck outside Building 6 and stepped into the morning sun, none of that mattered. Today, she was nobody. Today, she was exactly what her paperwork said. A civilian contractor hired to push papers and stay invisible. Today, Lieutenant Commander Alexandria Thorne didn't exist. The interior of Building 6 smelled like burned coffee and institutional resignation. The woman behind the reception desk had the hollow eyes of someone who had stopped caring about her job approximately 18 months ago. "Help you?" Alexandria slid her folder across the counter. "Civilian hire, administrative support. I'm supposed to report to Commander Ashford." The receptionist, Petty Officer Walsh, according to her name tape, glanced at the paperwork without interest. "Ashford's in a meeting. You can wait over there." She gestured vaguely toward a row of plastic chairs that had seen better decades. "Might be a while." "How long is a while?" Walsh shrugged. The gesture said everything about this place, about how much anyone cared. "However long he feels like making you wait." Alexandria sat down. An hour passed, then 2. Operators walked through the lobby like she was furniture. Some glanced her way, quick assessments that dismissed her instantly. Young, female, civilian, not worth their time. She cataloged every face, every nameplate, every rank insignia. She counted the security cameras, 4 in the lobby, 2 in the hallway beyond, 1 above the reception desk with a blind spot near the water cooler. She memorized the shift change at the front desk. Walsh left at 11:47. Her replacement was younger, more alert, potentially a problem. At 11:53, a door slammed open down the hallway. "Where is my new file clerk?" The voice belonged to a man who had spent his entire life believing the world owed him something. Commander Marcus Ashford walked like he owned everything he could see. 38 years old, square jaw, the kind of chest that came from protein shakes and mirror selfies more than actual combat. He had earned his trident 15 years ago and had been coasting on that reputation ever since. His gaze traveled from her boots to her hair with all the subtlety of a freight train. "You're the temp?" Alexandria stood. "Yes, sir." "Don't call me sir. I work for a living." He laughed at his own joke. Nobody else did. "Follow me." His office was exactly what she expected. Framed photos of himself on every wall. A sealed trident mounted in a shadow box. Plaques and certificates arranged to be visible from the door. Everything screaming, "Look at me, respect me, fear me." "Sit," she said. Ashford leaned against his desk and crossed his arms. The pose of a man used to intimidation, working on people weaker than himself. "Let me be clear about something," he said. "This is a special operations facility. The men here are warriors, legends. They've done things you can't imagine and wouldn't believe if I told you." "I understand." "Do you?" He leaned forward. "You're here to file paperwork, make copies, answer phones. You are support staff, invisible. You don't talk to the operators. You don't ask questions. You don't look at anything you're not supposed to look at." He paused, waiting for her to nod, to submit. "Are we clear?" "Crystal clear." "Good." He straightened. "Your desk is in the logistics pool. End of the hall, last cubicle on the left, next to the supply closet." He smiled. There was no warmth in it. "Welcome to Coronado." The logistics pool was a graveyard of ambition. 12 desks crammed into a space designed for 8. Fluorescent lights buzzed like dying insects. A coffee maker sat in the corner, looking like it hadn't been cleaned since the Clinton administration. Alexandria's desk was exactly where Ashford said it would be, next to the supply closet, as far from anything important as physically possible. A previous occupant had taped a motivational poster to the cubicle wall. "Excellence is not a destination, it's a journey." Someone had drawn a middle finger next to it. "You're the new girl." Alexandria turned. The woman standing behind her was small and sharp-eyed. Specialist Quinn Hartley, according to her name tape. Communications specialist. 28 years old with the premature stress lines of someone fighting a war nobody else could see. "That's me," Alexandria said. "The new girl." Quinn didn't offer her hand. "Word of advice, keep your head down, do your work. Don't make eye contact with Graves." "Who's Graves?" Before Quinn could answer, a shadow fell across the desk. Senior Chief Donovan Graves was 6'3" and built like something designed to hurt people. He had the dead stare of a man who had learned to enjoy causing pain somewhere along the way and hadn't stopped since. His uniform was immaculate, his boots polished to a mirror shine. Everything about him said, "I am the law here. I am the punishment." "Fresh meat." His voice was gravel and broken glass. "Heard we got a new filing girl." Alexandria looked up at him, kept her face neutral, submissive. Exactly what he expected to see. "That's me." Graves smiled. The expression didn't reach his eyes. "You know what happens to filing girls around here?" "They file things." The smile disappeared. "They learn their place, fast." He leaned down until his face was inches from hers. She could smell coffee and chewing tobacco on his breath. Stale sweat under expensive cologne. "You're in my building now, sweetheart. My rules. You step out of line. You talk back. You even look at me wrong." He let the threat hang in the air like a blade. "We understand each other?" Every instinct Alexandria had developed over 3 years of combat operations screamed at her to move, to strike, to put this man on the ground before he could finish his sentence. She had killed men for less than this, faster than this, in ways that would haunt Graves in his sleep if he knew what she was capable of. But she was nobody today, so she nodded. "We understand each other perfectly." Graves straightened. "Good." He slapped her desk hard enough to rattle the computer monitor. Get to work. He walked away. Quinn waited until he was out of earshot before exhaling. I tried to warn you. Alexandria watched Graves's retreating back, memorized his gait, the way he favored his left leg. Old injury, probably a training accident. Weakness. What's his story? He's Ashford's attack dog, Quinn said quietly. Does the dirty work so Ashford keeps his hands clean. Anyone who causes problems for the command, she shook her head. They get transferred, or they quit, or they have accidents. Accidents. Quinn's face closed off, like a door slamming shut. Forget I said that. She walked away before Alexandria could ask anything else. The first day was a test. Alexandria understood that. Every new environment had a breaking-in period, a time when the predators circled to see what they were dealing with, to find the weak spots, the breaking points. At 1400 hours, Graves accidentally knocked a stack of files off her desk, 200 pages scattered across the floor. Oops. He didn't even pretend to be sorry. Better clean that up, sweetheart. Alexandria cleaned it up, on her knees, in front of 12 witnesses who looked away or smirked or did nothing at all. She memorized every face, every person who watched, every person who could have stopped it. At 15:30 hours, Lieutenant Bridget Callahan stopped by her desk with a coffee order. Callahan was Ashford's second in command, the kind of woman who had sold out her gender to climb the ladder. Everything about her screamed, I made it, why can't you? Ashford needs his afternoon coffee, Callahan said sweetly. Black, 2 sugars, the good coffee from the machine in Building 4, not the garbage in here. She smiled. All teeth, no warmth. Be a dear and fetch it for him. Alexandria fetched it. At 1700 hours, Ashford himself appeared at her cubicle with a cardboard box full of documents. These need to be filed by morning, he said, alphabetically, by date, then cross-referenced with the digital archive. Alexandria looked at the box. There had to be 500 pages. Is there a problem? No problem. Good, because I'd hate to have to call your temp agency and tell them you couldn't handle the workload. He dropped the box on her desk with a thud that made her monitor jump. Welcome to day 1. She worked until midnight. The building emptied around her. Walsh first, then Quinn with an apologetic look that said more than words. Then the rest of the logistics staff, shuffling out like prisoners granted temporary release. By 2100 hours, Alexandria was alone with the fluorescent lights and the filing. But she wasn't just filing. Every document that passed through her hands was photographed. The camera was built into her watch, military grade, invisible to casual inspection. Each image uploaded automatically to an encrypted server that only 3 people in the world could access. Every name, every requisition, every transfer order, cataloged, stored, analyzed. Because Alexandria hadn't come to Coronado to push papers. 6 months ago, NCIS had flagged unusual activity at the base. Equipment going missing. Classified documents accessed by unauthorized personnel. 3 SEAL operators killed on missions that should have been routine. Compromised by intelligence leaks that pointed to someone with high-level access. Someone was selling secrets. Someone inside this building. Admiral Catherine Shaw had recruited Alexandria personally. The conversation had taken place in a secure facility outside Washington. No windows, no recording devices. Just 2 women and a choice that would change everything. I need someone who can go in quiet, Shaw had said. Someone they'll underestimate. Someone who can get close without raising suspicions. A woman, Alexandria said. Shaw smiled grimly. The youngest female SEAL in history, a decorated operator with more Black Ops experience than most men twice your age. She slid a folder across the table. And to them, you'll be nobody. Just another temp who couldn't hack it in the real world. Alexandria opened the folder. Inside were photos, mission reports, intelligence summaries, and one name that made her blood run cold. Captain Evelyn Monroe. Her mentor, her friend, The woman who had trained her, shaped her, made her into something the enemy had learned to fear, dead in a Syrian street 2 years ago. 3 rounds to the chest. An ambush that shouldn't have happened. Intelligence that shouldn't have been compromised. How long? Alexandria's voice was steady. Her hands were not. As long as it takes, Shaw said. Find the leak, gather evidence, and when you have enough, Shaw's eyes hardened. Burn it all down. At 23:47 hours, Alexandria finished the filing. She leaned back in her chair, let her eyes drift closed. Not from exhaustion, from memory. Syria, 2 years ago, a different mission, a different failure. She had been 20 years old, fresh from DevGru selection, assigned to her first real command, Joint SEAL Delta operation to extract a CIA asset from a compound outside Damascus. Simple, in and out, should have been routine. It wasn't. Someone had leaked their approach route. The extraction team walked into an ambush that killed 3 Delta operators in the first 30 seconds. Alexandria's squad fought their way to the asset, but the exfil birds couldn't land. Too much enemy fire. Too many RPGs lighting up the sky. Captain Evelyn Monroe had been Alexandria's mentor since BUD/S, the woman who had seen something in a 19-year-old girl that nobody else could see. The woman who had pushed her past every limit, broken her down, built her back up stronger. Evelyn had taken 3 rounds in the chest covering Alexandria's retreat to the secondary extraction point. The memory was acid. Evelyn on the ground, blood bubbling through the holes in her plate carrier. Alexandria screaming for a medic, knowing there wasn't time. Evelyn's hand gripping Alexandria's wrist with fading strength. Don't let them break what we built. Evelyn. Promise me. I promise. Evelyn Monroe died 14 minutes later in the medevac bird, 3 miles from the field hospital that might have saved her. The leak was never found. The traitor was never caught. 3 more operators had died in the months that followed, victims of the same intelligence breach that had killed Evelyn. Alexandria had promised. Now she was here to keep that promise. She opened her eyes, looked at the stacks of filed documents, the evidence building 1 page at a time. Tomorrow would be harder. Tomorrow they would test her more, push her further, see how much she could take before she broke. They didn't know she couldn't break. They didn't know what she was. Not yet. Alexandria stood, gathered her things, walked toward the exit through a building that smelled like failure and forgotten dreams. But as she reached the door, she paused. A light was on in one of the offices down the hall. 3rd floor access, the restricted section where only senior personnel were supposed to go. She checked the time. 23:53. 7 minutes until midnight. The security cameras ran on a loop that reset at midnight. Quinn had mentioned that in passing. Probably thought Alexandria wasn't listening. Alexandria was always listening. She moved toward the stairs. Quiet, controlled, the way she had been trained to move through hostile territory. The 3rd floor was silent, deserted. Office doors locked and dark except for one at the end of the hall. Commander Ashford's office. Alexandria approached, tested the door, locked. Standard military-issue electronic keypad. The code changed weekly, theoretically random, practically predictable. She pulled a device from her pocket, the size of a credit card, prototype tech from naval intelligence that could crack most electronic locks in under 30 seconds. 12 seconds later, she was inside. Ashford's computer was password protected. Another 30 seconds with the cracking tool, and files opened across the screen in cascading windows. Encrypted communications with someone identified only as buyer. Bank transfers to offshore accounts. Over $2 million in the last 18 months. Mission briefs. Classified operational details for SEAL deployments across 3 continents. Someone was selling America's most sensitive military secrets, and Alexandria was looking at the evidence. She photographed everything, every file, every transaction, every communication. But as she worked, one folder caught her attention. Operation Blackout. She opened it. The blood drained from her face. Inside was a complete breakdown of the mission that had killed Evelyn Monroe. Routes, timing, extraction coordinates. Everything the enemy would have needed to set up the ambush that took her mentor's life. Ashford hadn't just sold secrets, he had sold Evelyn. Alexandria's hands trembled, not from fear, from rage so pure it felt like fire in her veins. She had spent 2 years hunting for the traitor who had killed her mentor. 2 years of dead ends and classified walls and superiors who told her to let it go, to move on, to accept that some questions would never be answered. And he had been here the whole time, sitting in his office, counting his money, laughing at the men and women who trusted him. A noise in the hallway snapped her back to reality. Footsteps, getting closer. Alexandria closed the files, restored the computer to its previous state, moved toward the window. The footsteps stopped outside the door. A voice. Male. Familiar. I'm telling you, the badge log shows third-floor access at 2347. Someone's up here. Graves. Alexandria was already moving. Out the window onto the fire escape, down 1 level, through a maintenance access that shouldn't have been unlocked, but was because Quinn had made sure of it. Back to the ground floor, out the side exit, into her truck. She was 3 blocks away before the security team even reached Ashford's office. The next morning arrived with the weight of unfinished business. Alexandria parked her truck in the same spot, wore the same clothes, carried the same bland expression of a woman who had nowhere else to be and nothing else to offer. But everything had changed. Now she knew. Now she had proof. Now she just needed to survive long enough to use it. Building 6 looked the same in daylight. Same burned coffee smell. Same hollow-eyed receptionist. Same operators walking past like she didn't exist. But Alexandria could feel the tension. Something had shifted overnight. Graves was waiting at her desk. He didn't say anything at first, just stood there, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Sleep well? Fine, thank you. Interesting thing happened last night, he said. Someone accessed the 3rd floor, used a badge that belonged to a petty officer who's been on leave for 3 weeks. Alexandria kept her face neutral. That does sound interesting. I think so too. Graves leaned closer. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? I was here until midnight, filing, then I went home. Anyone see you leave? The night guard at the front gate. Graves studied her for a long moment, then he straightened. Commander Ashford wants to see you. Now. The walk to Ashford's office felt like a march to an execution. Graves stayed close behind her, close enough that she could feel his breath on the back of her neck. Ashford was waiting. So was Lieutenant Callahan. The door closed behind Alexandria with a sound like a cell locking. Sit down, Ashford said. She sat. Ashford opened a folder on his desk. Inside were security logs, access reports, badge swipe data. Someone broke into my office last night, he said quietly. Used a stolen badge, accessed classified files. Do you know what the penalty is for unauthorized access to classified material? I imagine it's severe. 20 years in Leavenworth, dishonorable discharge, loss of all benefits and privileges. His gaze never left hers. That's if we go through official channels. Sometimes we handle these things internally, quietly, so they don't embarrass the command. The threat was clear. Alexandria said nothing. Where did you come from, Miss Thorne? Ashford leaned forward. The temp agency has your file. But when I called them this morning, they'd never heard of you. Your references don't check out. Your work history dissolves the moment you look at it too closely. He slid a photograph across the desk. It showed Alexandria entering the building at 2343 the previous night. You're good, Ashford said. I'll give you that, but not good enough. So I'm going to ask you one time. Who are you? Who sent you? Alexandria met his eyes. This was the moment, the decision point. maintain cover and risk being killed quietly, or reveal herself and lose the advantage of invisibility. Before she could answer, there was a knock on the door. "Not now," Ashford barked. The door opened anyway. Master Chief Dalton Vance stepped inside. 59 years old, weathered face that had seen too many wars, an observant gaze that missed nothing. He wore his uniform like a second skin, every ribbon and medal earned in blood. On his chest, the Navy Cross, second highest military decoration for valor, only awarded for extraordinary heroism in combat. "Commander," Vance said. His voice carried the authority of 3 decades in the teams. "I need to borrow Miss Thorne. Quartermaster has questions about some supply requisitions." Ashford's jaw tightened. "We're in the middle of something, Master Chief." "I understand, but this is time-sensitive. Admiral's orders." The room went very quiet. Ashford couldn't refuse a direct order from the base commander, not without raising questions he didn't want raised. "Fine," he said finally, "but we're not done here, Miss Thorne. Not by a long shot." Alexandria stood, followed Vance out of the office, down the hallway, out of the building. Neither of them spoke until they were outside, away from cameras, away from ears. Vance led her to Building 3, 3rd floor, his office. The door closed, locked. "You want to tell me what the hell you were thinking?" Vance's voice was quiet, controlled, furious. "Breaking into a commander's office on your second night here? How did you—" "I've been watching you since you walked through that gate," he said. "I know an operator when I see one. The way you move, the way you assess. You're not a file clerk any more than I'm the Pope." He moved to his desk, pulled out a thick folder. "Quinn Hartley came to see me this morning, told me you might need help, that you might be in over your head." He threw the folder on the desk. "So I did some digging, called in some favors, found out who you really are." The folder was a complete dossier. Alexandria's real service record, classified missions, DevGru operations, everything. "Lieutenant Commander Alexandria Thorne," Vance read, "SEAL Team 9, youngest female operator in DevGru history, 47 confirmed kills, 3 silver stars, the Reaper of Damascus." He looked up. "That's you." Alexandria said nothing. "So, I'll ask again," Vance said. "What are you doing here? And don't tell me you're filing paperwork." She made a decision, reached into her pocket, pulled out a flash drive. "I'm here because someone inside this command sold intelligence that got my mentor killed. Captain Evelyn Monroe. Syria, 2 years ago. An ambush that shouldn't have happened." She handed him the drive. "That contains evidence that Commander Ashford is selling classified SEAL operational data to foreign buyers. He's responsible for at least 3 compromised missions, 9 dead operators, including Evelyn." Vance stared at the drive. "You're sure?" "I have financial records, communications, mission briefs that match the timing of every leak." Alexandria's voice was steady, final. "Ashford is the traitor, and I'm going to bring him down." Vance was silent for a long moment. Then he opened a drawer in his desk, pulled out his own folder, even thicker than the first. "I've been building a case against Ashford for 8 months," he said, "since Petty Officer Dylan Hartley died. Officially ruled a drowning during a training exercise. Unofficially, he was asking questions about equipment that went missing, ammunition that couldn't be accounted for." He spread documents across his desk. 3 missions compromised in the last 18 months, all briefed by Ashford, all resulting in operator casualties. "I flagged it to battalion. They told me I was seeing patterns that didn't exist. Told me to drop it." "Why didn't you?" Vance's face hardened. "Because I've been doing this for 30 years. I know what betrayal looks like. I've seen it before." He pulled out a photograph, yellowed with age. 6 men in desert camouflage, younger, harder, standing in front of a helicopter. "Gulf War, 91. I was 26 years old. First combat deployment. We were running intelligence ops in southern Iraq. Someone leaked our safe house location to Republican Guard units. His finger traced the faces in the photo. 5 of these men died in the ambush. I was the only one who made it out. Spent 3 days in the desert before extraction found me. He looked at Alexandria. They never found who sold us out. Never even looked that hard. The war ended. Everyone went home. The traitor walked free. Vance's voice dropped to something barely above a whisper. I swore I'd never let that happen again. That if I ever saw another betrayal, I'd burn everything to the ground to stop it. He picked up Alexandria's flash drive. So yeah, I'll help you, whatever it takes, even if it costs me everything. Alexandria nodded slowly. Admiral Shaw told me there was a meeting, Ashford and his buyer, supposed to happen within the next 72 hours. When? Unknown, but soon. Vance moved to his computer, pulled up security schedules, building access logs, guard rotations. If Ashford is meeting someone, it'll be at Building 7. Restricted facility, minimal security, deep water access for boat extraction if things go wrong. How do we get inside? We don't. Vance looked at her. You do. I'm too well known, too watched. But you're invisible. Just a file clerk nobody cares about. Ashford cares now, after this morning. Then we need to move fast, before he figures out what you really are. Alexandria thought about that, about the risk, about the mission, about the promise she had made to a dying woman in a Syrian street. There's something else, she said. Quinn Hartley, she helped me. Turned off the security cameras so I could access Ashford's office. She knows I'm not what I pretend to be. Quinn's solid, Vance said. Her brother Dylan was the petty officer who died. She's been looking for proof just as long as I have. Can we trust her? Can we afford not to? Fair point. Vance gathered his documents, locked them in a safe built into the wall behind a framed photograph of the USS Nimitz. We need to be smart about this, he said. Ashford knows something's wrong. He'll be watching you. Graves will be watching you. If they catch you again, I won't be able to pull you out. I know. Do you? Vance's expression was hard. Because I've seen what happens to people who get in Ashford's way. They disappear. Accidents, training incidents, convenient explanations that no one questions. I've survived worse. Not here, not in a place where the enemy wears the same uniform you do. Alexandria met his gaze without flinching. Evelyn Monroe trained me to operate in hostile territory, taught me how to survive when everyone around me wants me dead, taught me how to be invisible until the moment I strike. She paused. Ashford thinks I'm weak, thinks I'm nobody. That's his mistake, not mine. Vance studied her for a long moment, then nodded. All right, we do this your way, but you need to know something. What? If this goes wrong, if they catch you, I can't save you. My hands will be tied by chain of command and politics and all the bullshit that makes men like Ashford untouchable. I'm not asking you to save me, Alexandria said. I'm asking you to help me finish this. For Evelyn, for Dylan, for everyone who died because someone valued money more than honor. Then we're clear. Crystal. They shook hands. The grip of 2 operators who understood exactly what was at stake and exactly what it would cost to win. The rest of the day passed like walking through a minefield blindfolded. Alexandria returned to her desk in the logistics pool, filed paperwork, answered phones, performed the role of invisible temp worker with the precision of someone who had spent years becoming whoever the mission required. But she could feel the eyes on her now. Graves watched from across the room, arms folded, expression unreadable. Every few minutes his attention would drift her direction, assessing, calculating, waiting for her to make a mistake. Callahan walked past her desk 3 times in 2 hours, each time slowing just enough to make it clear she was paying attention, taking note, building a case in her mind. And Ashford himself appeared in the doorway twice. Didn't say anything, didn't need to. His presence was message enough. We're watching you. We know something's wrong. We're going to find out what. At 1500 hours, Quinn Hartley approached Alexandria's desk with a stack of communication logs. "These need to be filed by end of day," she said. Her voice was professionally neutral. But as she set the stack down, her hand brushed against Alexandria's. A folded piece of paper transferred between them, so quick and smooth that anyone watching would have missed it. Alexandria waited until Quinn walked away, then unfolded the note under the desk. 3 words in tight handwriting. "Tonight, 0100. Ready?" Alexandria pulled out a pen, wrote a single word beneath Quinn's message. "Yes." She refolded the note, slipped it into her pocket, went back to filing. The hours crawled past with agonizing slowness. At 1700 hours, the logistics pool began to empty. Walsh left first, then the other administrative staff, one by one until only Alexandria remained. Graves appeared in the doorway at 1730. "Working late again?" Alexandria didn't look up from her screen. "Commander Ashford gave me a deadline." "Dedicated." Graves moved into the room, slow, predatory. "I like that in a woman. Shows commitment." He stopped at her desk, leaned against it, close enough that she could smell the cigarette smoke on his uniform. "You know what I think?" he said quietly. "I think you're trouble. I think you came here looking for something. And I think whatever you found last night in Ashford's office is going to get you killed." Alexandria kept typing. "I don't know what you're talking about." "No?" Graves reached out, placed one massive hand on top of her keyboard, stopping her work, forcing her to look at him. "Then let me be clear. People who cause problems around here don't last long. They get transferred. They get reassigned. They have accidents." He leaned closer. "You understand what I'm saying, sweetheart?" Alexandria met his stare, held his gaze without flinching. "I understand perfectly, Senior Chief. You're worried, because someone is finally asking the questions you've been paid to make sure nobody asks." Graves's face darkened. His hand moved from the keyboard to her wrist, gripped it, hard enough to hurt. "You want to repeat that?" "You heard me." For 3 long seconds, neither of them moved. Then Graves released her wrist, straightened. His expression had shifted from anger to something colder, more dangerous. "You just made a mistake," he said quietly. "A big one." He walked away. Across the room, Callahan watched the exchange. Her eyes narrowed. She pulled out her phone, typed a message. "Ashford, status?" Callahan. "The temp is planning something." Graves provoked her. She didn't break. Professional level composure. "Ashford, stay on her. Report any movement." Callahan. "Copy." She slipped the phone back into her pocket, smiled at Alexandria across the room. It wasn't a friendly smile. Alexandria watched Graves go, then looked down at her wrist, red marks where his fingers had been. They would bruise by morning. She photographed them with her phone. Evidence, documentation, everything would matter when this was over. At 2300 hours, Alexandria left the building. She drove her truck to the temporary housing unit off base, where civilian contractors were assigned. A converted motel that had seen better decades. Peeling paint, flickering neon sign. The kind of place people stayed when they had nowhere else to go. She parked, went to her room, locked the door, then she changed. The civilian clothes came off, replaced by dark tactical pants, black long-sleeve shirt, lightweight boots designed for silence. She strapped a ceramic knife to her ankle, invisible to metal detectors, sharp enough to cut through bone. Her phone buzzed. Text from a blocked number. "Meeting confirmed. 0100, Building 7. Ghost will be there. Admiral Shaw." Confirming the intelligence. Confirming the window was closing. Alexandria checked her watch. 23:17. 43 minutes until she had to move. She sat on the edge of the bed, let her mind go quiet, empty, the way Evelyn had taught her before every mission. Clear the noise, focus on the objective, Remember why you're here. Evelyn's voice in her memory, calm, certain. The voice of a woman who had never doubted Alexandria's ability to become something extraordinary. You're not fighting for revenge, Evelyn had said once. You're fighting for everyone who comes after, for the operators who trust the system to protect them, for the country that believes its warriors are led by honor. Alexandria opened her eyes, checked her weapons, her camera, her exit routes. At 23:57, she left the motel. At midnight, she was moving through the base like a shadow. The perimeter fence had blind spots. Quinn had identified them in the security logs, sections where the cameras didn't overlap, where a person could slip through if they knew exactly where to look. Alexandria knew. She cleared the fence in 18 seconds, moved through the darkness between buildings like water flowing around stones. No wasted movement, no sound. Building 7 loomed ahead. 3 stories of concrete and steel, restricted access, minimal windows, the kind of facility designed to keep secrets. Quinn was waiting near the east entrance. Dark clothes, laptop bag over one shoulder, her face pale but determined in the dim light. "Cameras are on a loop," she whispered. "You've got 15 minutes from the moment you go inside. After that, the system resets, and someone will notice." Vance? North perimeter, watching the access road. If anyone comes, he'll radio. Alexandria checked her earpiece, testing the connection. "Reaper to Ironside, radio check." Vance's voice came through clear and steady. "Ironside confirms. You're clear to proceed. Be careful in there." "Always am." Quinn pulled out an access card. Military-grade encryption, cloned from Ashford's personal badge. "This will get you through the first 2 doors," she said. "After that, you're on your own. The conference room is 2nd floor, east wing. If they're meeting, that's where they'll be." Alexandria took the card. "If something goes wrong, then I erase the evidence and deny everything," Quinn finished. "I know the drill. Your brother, Dylan, he would be proud of what you're doing." Quinn's eyes glistened, but her voice stayed steady. "Just make sure his death means something." "I will." Alexandria moved to the door, swiped the card. The lock disengaged with a soft click. She was inside. The interior of Building 7 was exactly what she expected. Sterile, functional, hallways lit by emergency lighting that cast everything in shades of red and shadow. She moved quickly, 2nd floor, east wing, following the mental map Quinn had provided. Voices ahead, male, low, coming from behind a partially closed door. Alexandria pressed herself against the wall, controlled her breathing, listened. "I understand the urgency, but the timeline is unrealistic." Ashford's voice, tense, defensive. "The timeline is what my employers require." A second voice, male, accented, Eastern European. "You will deliver or the arrangement terminates." Russian, or Ukrainian. Someone with connections to the kind of people who bought American secrets for the right price. Alexandria pulled out her phone, activated the recording app, moved closer to the door. Through the gap, she could see them. Ashford stood with his back to her, shoulders tight, the posture of a man under pressure. Across from him sat a man in civilian clothes, mid-50s, silver hair, cold eyes that had seen too much and felt too little. This was Ghost, the buyer, the person Ashford had been selling to. "The new training protocols are being revised next week," Ashford was saying. "I can have them to you within 72 hours. "Not good enough," Ghost leaned forward. "My clients need them before the Black Sea joint operation. That's in 5 days." "Then you have 5 days." Ghost's expression didn't change. "Do you understand the risk I'm taking? There's already someone investigating. A woman, civilian contractor, but she's not what she seems." Alexandria's pulse quickened. "I'm handling it," Ashford said. "Are you?" Ghost stood, walked to the window. "My sources tell me she accessed your office, Saw files. Took photographs. That's not handled, Commander. That's a security breach. She won't be a problem much longer. Then eliminate her. It's not that simple. If she disappears, there will be questions. Investigations. Investigations can be managed, Ghost said coldly. Witnesses can be silenced. You've eliminated problems before. The communications specialist. The instructor who asked too many questions. What's one more? Alexandria's blood ran cold. Dylan Hartley. Confirmed. Not an accident. Murder. She adjusted the phone, made sure the recording was clear. Every word documented. Every confession captured. The woman is different, Ashford said. She's trained. I can see it in how she moves, how she watches. She's not just some nosy civilian. Then find out who sent her and deal with the source. Ashford turned. For a moment, Alexandria thought he was looking directly at her hiding spot, but his gaze moved past, unfocused. What if the source is NCIS, or Naval Intelligence? Then you have bigger problems than one woman, Ghost said, and so do I. He moved toward the door. Alexandria pulled back, pressed herself into a maintenance alcove 3 feet away, barely breathing, invisible in shadow. Ghost walked past, so close she could have reached out and touched him. Then he was gone, footsteps receding down the hallway. Alexandria waited, counted to 30, let the adrenaline settle. She had it, the evidence, the confession, everything Admiral Shaw needed to bring Ashford down. Now she just had to get out alive. She moved back toward the stairwell, quiet, controller. A hand grabbed her from behind, spun her around, slammed her against the wall hard enough to drive the air from her lungs. Lieutenant Bridget Callahan stood inches away, gun drawn, pointed at Alexandria's chest. "Hello, sweetheart," Callahan said softly. "I was hoping I'd find you here." For 3 seconds, neither woman moved. Alexandria assessed. Distance, weapon, angle of fire. Callahan was too close. The gun pressed against Alexandria's sternum. No room to disarm without getting shot. Surprised? Callahan smiled. No warmth, just predatory satisfaction. "You shouldn't be. I've been watching you since day one. Knew you were wrong. Knew you were trouble." "Lieutenant, shut up." Callahan pressed the gun harder. "You think I don't know what you are? What you're doing here? I called your temp agency. They've never heard of you. Your references don't exist. Your entire background is fabricated." She leaned closer. "So I did some digging, called in favors, found out that NCIS has been sniffing around, found out they sent someone undercover." Callahan's eyes glittered with something ugly. "You." Alexandria said nothing, calculating, waiting for an opening. "Here's what's going to happen," Callahan said. "You're going to hand over that phone, the one you've been using to record everything. Then you're going to walk with me down to the basement, nice and quiet, no scenes, and then we're going to have a conversation about who sent you and what they know. Commander Ashford is very interested in that information. I'm sure he is. Move." Callahan stepped back, just enough to create space, just enough for Alexandria to walk. But the gun never wavered. Professional, competent, a woman who knew how to hold a weapon and wasn't afraid to use it. They moved down the hallway, down the stairs, toward the basement level where screams wouldn't carry and bodies could be disposed of without questions. Alexandria's mind raced through options. She could attack now, try to disarm Callahan in the stairwell, but the risk was high. One wrong move and the gun would fire. Game over. She could comply, go to the basement, wait for a better opening, but Graves would be there, maybe others. Multiple hostiles in a confined space. Bad odds. Or she could trust that Vance was watching, that Quinn was monitoring, that help would come. But that was hope, and hope got operators killed. They reached the basement level. Callahan gestured with the gun. "Door on the left. Open it." Alexandria opened the door. The room beyond was exactly what she expected. Concrete floor, no windows, a single metal chair in the center, drain in the floor for easy cleanup. This was where they brought people who asked too many questions. This was where Dylan Hartley had died. "Sit," Callahan ordered. Alexandria sat. Callahan pulled out her radio. "This is Callahan. I have the asset. Basement level. Building 7. Send Graves." The radio crackled. "Copy. Graves en route. ETA 2 minutes." Callahan smiled. "You should have stayed home, sweetheart. Should have kept your head down and taken the paycheck. Now you're going to tell us everything. And then you're going to disappear. Like Dylan Hartley?" Callahan's expression flickered. "Just for a second." "Who?" "Petty Officer Dylan Hartley. Died 6 months ago. You called it a drowning. But we both know that's not what happened. Ancient history. His sister doesn't think so." Callahan's eyes narrowed. "Quinn? That little mouse? What does she know?" "More than you think." The door behind Callahan opened. Donovan Graves stepped inside. He looked at Alexandria, then at Callahan, then back to Alexandria with something like satisfaction. "Well, well," he said. The file clerk finally showed her teeth. He walked closer, cracked his knuckles. The sound was very loud in the small room. "I'm going to enjoy this." "I'm sure you will," Callahan said. "But we need answers first. Who sent her? What they know? What she's already reported." Graves pulled out a knife. Military issue. The blade was clean, well-maintained, the tool of a man who knew how to use it. "People talk," he said quietly. "Eventually. Some just need more encouragement than others." He leaned down until his face was level with Alexandria's. "You look like you'll need a lot of encouragement." Alexandria met his stare. Calm, steady. The face of a woman who had survived worse than this. Much worse. "You're making a mistake." Graves laughed. "Am I? You have no idea who I am, what I'm capable of, what I've done. Then why don't you tell me?" Alexandria's voice dropped. Cold. Final. The voice of someone who had killed 47 people and would kill 48 without hesitation. "I'm the woman who's going to end you." Graves's smile disappeared. He moved fast, grabbed Alexandria by the hair, yanked her head back, exposed her throat. The knife came up. And then everything happened at once. The lights went out. Emergency exit doors unlocked throughout the building. Fire alarms shrieked to life. Quinn, from somewhere outside, triggering the building's emergency systems, creating chaos. Alexandria moved. She drove her elbow back into Graves's stomach, felt the air explode out of him, grabbed his wrist, twisted. The knife clattered to the floor. Callahan fired. The muzzle flash lit the room like lightning, but Alexandria was already moving. The bullet sparked off concrete where she had been sitting. She swept Graves's legs, put him on his back, rolled away as Callahan fired again. The second shot went wide. Alexandria came up in a crouch, located the knife, grabbed it. Callahan was turning, trying to track her in the darkness, the gun sweeping back and forth. Alexandria threw the knife. It wasn't a killing throw, not yet. She needed Callahan alive, needed answers. The blade caught Callahan in the forearm. She screamed. The gun fell from nerveless fingers. Alexandria closed the distance. 3 steps, drove her fist into Callahan's solar plexus. As the lieutenant doubled over, Alexandria grabbed a fistful of hair and slammed Callahan's head into the wall. Once. Twice. Callahan went down and stayed down. Graves was getting up, blood on his lips where he had bitten his tongue, expression filled with rage and something new, fear. He pulled a backup weapon, a small pistol from an ankle holster. "You're dead," he gasped. "Not today." Alexandria moved like water, closed the distance before Graves could aim, knocked the gun aside, drove her palm into his nose. Cartilage shattered, blood sprayed. Graves stumbled backward, blind, disoriented. Alexandria swept his legs again. This time when he went down, she followed. Knee on his chest, hands around his throat. "Dylan Hartley," she said quietly. "Did you kill him?" Graves clawed at her hands. Couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. "Did you kill him?" She released the pressure just enough for him to gasp out words. "Orders. Ashford's orders." Kid was asking questions. Poking around had to be dealt with. How? Held him under. Training pool. Made it look like he panicked. Drowned. Graves coughed. Blood bubbled on his lips. "Just following orders." "Orders?" Alexandria's voice was ice. "That's what you tell yourself. That makes it okay." "I'm a soldier. I follow orders." "You're a murderer. There's a difference." She stood. Graves gasped for air, tried to rise. Alexandria kicked him in the head. Not hard enough to kill, just hard enough to make sure he stayed down. Her earpiece crackled. "Reaper, this is Ironside. What's your status?" "Engaged, 2 hostiles, both down. I'm mobile." "Good, because we have a problem." Ashford just left the building, heading for the north parking lot, and he's not alone. "Who's with him?" "Can't tell from this distance, but they're moving fast, like they know something's wrong." Alexandria grabbed Callahan's radio. Graves' weapon, anything that might be useful. "I'm coming out. North exit." "Negative. Security is converging on Building 7. Fire alarm brought them running. You need to go through the maintenance tunnel. East wall. Quinn will guide you." Quinn's voice came through, tense but controlled. "Alex, there's a service corridor behind the boiler room. Follows the steam lines all the way to Building 3. Exits near Vance's office." "Copy. Moving now." Alexandria ran. Behind her, she could hear Graves stirring. Callahan groaning. They would live. They would talk. They would tell Ashford exactly who had done this to them. Good. Let him know. Let him understand that the prey had teeth. That the file clerk was a hunter. That his time was running out. She found the maintenance corridor exactly where Quinn said it would be. Dark. Narrow. Smelling of steam and rust in decades of neglect. She moved through it like a ghost. Emerged in Building 3 5 minutes later. Vance was waiting. "You look like hell," he said. "You should see the other guys." "I'm sure I will. In about 10 minutes when security finds them." Vance grabbed her arm. "Come on. We need to move before they lock down the entire base." They ran. Through hallways. Downstairs. Out a side exit that Vance had unlocked earlier. Quinn was waiting in a civilian car. Engine running. Lights off. "Get in." They got in. Quinn drove. Fast, but not reckless. Out through a service gate that wasn't supposed to be accessible, but was because she had hacked the control system an hour ago. 3 blocks from the base, she finally slowed down. "Everyone okay?" "Define okay," Alexandria said. She was covered in blood. Most of it wasn't hers. Her knuckles were split. Her wrist bruised. Her entire body ached from the fight. But she was alive, and she had the recording. "Did you get it?" Vance asked. "The meeting?" Alexandria pulled out her phone, activated the recording. Ashford's voice filled the car. "My clients need them before the Black Sea joint operation. Then you have 5 days. Eliminate her." Vance listened to the whole thing, his face growing darker with every word. When it finished, he was silent for a long moment. "That's it," he said finally. "That's everything we need. Financial crimes, espionage, conspiracy to commit murder. Ashford is done." "Not yet," Alexandria said. "We have evidence, but we need to get it to Admiral Shaw before Ashford runs, before he destroys everything and disappears." "He won't run," Quinn said quietly. "He's too arrogant, too sure of himself. He'll think he can control the situation. Then we need to move fast, before he realizes he can't." Alexandria's phone buzzed. Text from Admiral Shaw. "Intel confirmed. Tactical team en route. ETA 30 minutes. Hold position. She showed the message to Vance. 30 minutes, he said. We can manage that. Can we? Quinn's hands were shaking on the steering wheel. Ashford knows someone infiltrated Building 7. He knows his security is compromised. What if he runs anyway? What if we just pushed him into doing exactly what we didn't want? Then we track him, Alexandria said. We follow him, and we make sure he doesn't get away. Her phone buzzed again. But this time it wasn't Admiral Shaw. It was an unknown number, a text with no words, just a photograph. The photograph showed Admiral Vincent Keller, base commander, sitting in what looked like a private office. Behind him on the wall, a framed photograph of Keller shaking hands with a Russian defense minister. Beneath the photo, a caption in Russian, translated by Alexandria's phone. Old friends, new opportunities. And then another message, this one in English. Ashford was never the top. He was just the manager. Want to know who really runs this operation? Building 7, conference room, now. The message was signed with a single initial. K. Keller. Alexandria stared at the phone, her blood running cold. What is it? Vance asked. She showed him the message. Son of a bitch, he whispered. Keller, the Admiral. He's not just covering for Ashford, he's running the entire operation. That's not possible, Quinn said. Keller's a decorated officer. 30 years of service. He wouldn't he? Vance's voice was bitter. Think about it. Who has access to everything? Who can override security? Who can make investigations disappear? An admiral. Someone at the top of the chain of command. Alexandria looked at the message again. It was a trap, obviously. Keller knew they were investigating, knew they had evidence. This was him trying to lure them in, to eliminate the threat before it could spread. But it was also an opportunity. If Keller was the real target, if Ashford was just a mid-level player in a much larger network, then they needed to get to Keller, needed to expose him before he could destroy the evidence and vanish. We go back, Alexandria said. Are you insane? Quinn's voice cracked. He's waiting for you, probably with Graves and half the security team. It's suicide. Maybe, but it's also the only way to end this. For real. Not just Ashford, all of them. Vance was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his service weapon, checked the magazine, chambered around. If we're doing this, he said, we're doing it right. Full tactical, no mistakes. Agreed. Quinn looked at both of them like they had lost their minds. You're both going to die. Probably, Alexandria said, but not before we finish what Dylan started. She met Quinn's eyes in the rearview mirror. Your brother died asking questions, died trying to expose corruption. Are we going to let that be for nothing? Or are we going to make sure his death meant something? Quinn's jaw tightened. She turned the car around, headed back toward the base, toward Building 7, toward the endgame. The base was different now, alert, aware, like a sleeping predator that had suddenly opened its eyes. Security vehicles patrolled the perimeter roads. Lights swept across empty parking lots. The fire alarm had brought everyone out. Now they were looking for whoever had triggered it, looking for whoever had infiltrated Building 7, looking for Alexandria. Quinn drove past the main gate. Too much attention there. Too many questions they couldn't answer. Instead, she headed for the maintenance entrance on the south side, a service road used by contractors and delivery trucks. Less secure, more vulnerable. Vance made a call on a secure line, spoke in clipped military shorthand that Alexandria only half understood. When he hung up, his face was grim. Admiral Shaw's tactical team is 20 minutes out, but she says if Keller is really the mastermind, he'll have contingencies, escape routes, dead man switches. We corner him, he might bring the whole house down just to avoid capture. Then we don't corner him, Alexandria said. We let him think he's won. Let him get comfortable. Then we take him. How? She thought about it, about Keller's message, about the psychology of a man who had spent 30 years building a perfect cover, who believed himself untouchable. He wants to talk, she said. Wants to explain, justify. Men like him always do. They need you to understand why they did it, why they were right, and everyone else was wrong. So we give him an audience, Vance said slowly. Let him monologue. Buy time for Shaw's team to arrive. Exactly. Quinn pulled the car into a maintenance area behind Building 4. Killed the engine. Killed the lights. Building 7 is 200 yards north, she said. Security is concentrated on the east and west entrances, but there's a loading dock on the south side, used for equipment deliveries. If I can get into the security system again, I can unlock it remotely. Can you do it without them noticing? Quinn's smile was thin and sharp. They haven't noticed anything I've done so far. Why would they start now? She pulled out her laptop. Fingers flew across the keyboard. Lines of code scrolled past faster than Alexandria could follow. I'm in, Quinn said after 30 seconds. South loading dock unlocks in 5, 4, 3, 2, a distant clunk, barely audible. Done. You've got maybe 10 minutes before someone notices the door shouldn't be open. Vance checked his weapon again, looked at Alexandria. You ready for this? I've been ready since Syria. They moved. Across open ground, staying low, using shadows and parked vehicles for cover. Every skill learned in 100 training exercises and a dozen combat deployments. The loading dock was exactly where Quinn said it would be. Door open, interior dark. They slipped inside. The building was quieter now. The fire alarm had been silenced, but Alexandria could hear voices. Distant, multiple people moving through the upper floors. Security sweeps, looking for intruders, looking for her. Conference room is second floor, Vance whispered. East wing, same place you were before. I remember. They climbed the stairs, slow, silent, weapons ready. The hallway on the second floor was empty. Emergency lighting cast everything in red shadow. The conference room door was closed, but not locked. Alexandria tested the handle. It turned. She looked at Vance. He nodded. She pushed the door open. Admiral Vincent Keller sat at the head of a long conference table, 62 years old, gray hair cut military short, an icy gaze that had seen 3 decades of classified operations and learned to show nothing. He wore his service uniform, every ribbon and medal in place, the picture of military perfection. Behind him stood Commander Marcus Ashford, face bruised, lips split. He looked like a man who had been hit by a truck and was barely holding himself together. And beside Ashford, to Alexandria's surprise, was Ghost, the buyer, still here, still in play. Lieutenant Commander Thorne, Keller said. His voice was calm, almost gentle. Please, come in, and bring Master Chief Vance with you. I know he's there. Vance stepped through the doorway, weapon drawn, aimed at Keller's chest. It's over, Admiral. We have everything. Financial records, communications, recordings of Ashford selling classified information. NCIS is on the way. You're done. Keller smiled. Am I? Or am I exactly where I plan to be? He gestured to the chairs across from him. Sit, please. We have things to discuss. And I promise you, if I wanted you dead, you would be already. Alexandria glanced at Vance. He shook his head slightly. Don't trust it. But they needed time. Needed to keep Keller talking until Shaw's team arrived. She sat. Vance remained standing, weapon never wavering. Good, Keller said. Now, let me tell you a story about a young CIA officer in 1982, fresh from the farm, assigned to Operation Cyclone. Do you know what that was? CIA support for Afghan resistance against Soviet occupation, Alexandria said. Very good, yes. I was 20 years old, idealistic, believed everything they told us about fighting the good fight, defending freedom, making the world safe for democracy. Keller's gaze grew distant. I spent 3 years in Pakistan, running assets, funneling weapons to Mujahideen fighters, watching them kill Russians with equipment we provided. It was glorious. We were winning. The Soviet Union was bleeding out in the mountains. And then? Vance asked. And then we won. Soviets withdrew in '89. Berlin Wall fell in '90. Cold War over. Victory declared. I came home expecting gratitude, recognition. Instead, I got a desk job in Langley and a memo thanking me for my service. Keller's voice hardened. The men I had trained, the fighters we had armed, they became the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, the same people we would spend the next 20 years fighting. And when I pointed out that maybe we should have thought about that, maybe we should have planned for what came after, I was told to shut up and follow orders. So you became a traitor, Alexandria said flatly. No, Keller leaned forward. I became a realist. I learned that patriotism is a story we tell ourselves, that honor is a luxury for people who don't understand how the world really works, that loyalty means nothing when your government will abandon you the moment you're no longer useful. Justify it however you want, Vance said. You sold American soldiers, got them killed, for money. Not just money, Keller stood, walked to the window. For security, for control, for the knowledge that I would never be discarded like garbage when I got too old or too inconvenient. He turned back. Do you know what they pay admirals? Even after 30 years? It's a joke. A pension that barely covers rent in any decent city. Meanwhile, defense contractors make millions. Politicians retire into six-figure consulting jobs. The system rewards everyone except the people who actually did the work. So you built your own system, Alexandria said. I built an insurance policy. 40 years of contacts, assets, people who owed me favors, Russians who remembered I helped them after the Cold War, Chinese who appreciated that I understood their position. I became the man who could provide what others couldn't. Intelligence, Vance said. American military secrets. Information, Keller corrected. Just information. What people chose to do with it was their business. People died. Keller's face showed nothing. People die every day, in wars that accomplish nothing. For politicians who don't care. At least my work had purpose, had value, had meaning. Alexandria felt rage building in her chest, cold, controlled. The kind of anger that made her hands steady instead of shaking. Evelyn Monroe, she said quietly, Syria, 2 years ago. You sold the intelligence that got her killed. Keller thought about it, like he was trying to remember. The extraction mission? Ah, yes, that was unfortunate. The timing was poor. Your team was in the wrong place when the transaction occurred. Unfortunate. Alexandria's voice was barely above a whisper. She died in my arms, asking me to protect what she had built, to stop people like you. And yet here you are, still trying to play hero, still believing that stopping me will change anything. Keller moved back to the table, placed both hands on it, leaned forward. You want to know the truth? The real truth? This network doesn't end with me. I have people in 12 countries, every branch of the military, every intelligence agency, people who think the way I do, who understand that the system is broken and the only way to survive is to build something outside it. We'll find them all, Vance said. Will you? Even if you take me down today, even if you expose Ashford and everyone in this room, the network continues because it's bigger than any one person. It's an idea, and you can't kill an idea with bullets or prison cells. Alexandria stood slowly. You're wrong. Am I? Yes, because your idea is built on betrayal, on selling out the people who trusted you, on putting money above honor. And eventually, everyone in your network will realize the same thing I did. What's that? That a man who betrays his country will betray anyone, including them. And when that happens, when they realize you'd sell them out just as quickly as you sold out everyone else, your network collapses. Not because of bullets or prison, because of what you are. A man without honor, without loyalty, without anything worth following. Keller studied her for a long moment. You sound like your mentor, Evelyn. She said something similar once, before she died. The words hit Alexandria like a physical blow. You were there. Not personally, but I watched the video. My clients were kind enough to share it. She was brave, I'll give her that. Took 3 rounds and still tried to return fire. Still tried to save her team. Admirable. Pointless, but admirable. Something inside Alexandria snapped. She moved without thinking. Closed the distance to Keller in 3 strides. Her hand went to the knife at her ankle. Ashford drew his weapon. So did Vance. For 3 seconds, everyone was armed. Everyone ready to fire. The room balanced on the edge of violence. Then Keller laughed. There it is. The real Alexandria Thorne. The Reaper. I was wondering when she would show up. He held up a hand. Ashford lowered his weapon slightly. I'm not afraid of you, Keller said. Do you know why? Because killing me doesn't solve your problem. I have a dead man's switch. A laptop in a secure location. If I don't check in every 12 hours, everything uploads automatically. Every name, every operation, every piece of intelligence I've ever sold. It goes to WikiLeaks, to foreign governments, to anyone who wants it. He smiled. You kill me and you destroy American intelligence operations on 6 continents. You expose hundreds of assets. You compromise ongoing missions. Thousands of lives at risk, all because you wanted revenge. You're bluffing, Vance said. Try me. Alexandria's hand was still on her knife, still ready, but her mind was racing through possibilities. If Keller was telling the truth, if he really had a dead man's switch, then killing him would cause exactly the kind of catastrophe he described. Every secret exposed, every operation compromised. But if he was lying, if this was one final manipulation to buy himself time to escape, then letting him walk meant everything they had fought for was meaningless. What do you want? She asked. Smart girl. Keller sat back down. I want safe passage. Out of the country, my choice of destination. In exchange, I give you the location of the laptop, the access codes, everything. You can shut down the dead man's switch, arrest everyone in the network, claim your victory, and you disappear. I'm 62 years old. I have enough money to live comfortably for the rest of my life. Let me have that, in exchange for giving you everything else. Vance's voice was hard. He's buying time, stalling until he can trigger the switch manually and destroy everything anyway. Maybe, Keller said. Or maybe I'm a tired old man who's smart enough to know when he's lost. Who wants to survive more than he wants to win? Alexandria looked at Ashford. The commander hadn't said a word, just stood there, weapon ready, expression empty. What about him? She asked. Commander Ashford is a believer, Keller said. He thinks I'm going to save him, get him out, protect him. But you and I both know that's not going to happen. He's burned. Compromised. The moment we walk out of here, he becomes a liability I can't afford. Ashford's face went pale. Admiral, did you really think I was going to let you come with me? Keller's voice was cold. You got caught. You let an NCIS agent infiltrate your command. You failed, and I don't reward failure. He pulled a small pistol from inside his jacket, aimed it at Ashford. I'm sorry, Marcus, but you understand. It's just business. He fired. Ashford took the bullet in the chest, staggered backward, crashed into the wall, slid down, leaving a red smear on the paint. Vance's weapon snapped toward Keller. So did Ghosts. The buyer had been silent the entire conversation. Now he moved with practiced speed, professional, trained. Don't, Ghost said. His weapon was aimed at Alexandria. Lower your gun or she dies. Vance didn't move. I mean it, Ghost said. So do I, Vance replied. Mexican standoff. 3 guns, 3 targets. Nobody could fire without dying. Alexandria's mind calculated angles, distances, probabilities. If Vance fired at Keller, Ghost would kill her. If she moved, either Keller or Ghost would shoot. If they did nothing, Keller would walk out and disappear forever. No good options. Then the door exploded inward. Admiral Shaw's tactical team flooded the room. 6 operators in full gear, weapons trained, professional, overwhelming. Federal agents, drop your weapons, now! Ghost fired anyway. The bullet caught Alexandria in the shoulder, spinning her around, dropping her to one knee. Vance fired back. 2 rounds center mass. Ghost went down. The tactical team engaged. Flash grenades, smoke, chaos. Keller ran. Alexandria saw him move through the confusion. Out the door, into the hallway. She forced herself up, ignored the pain, ignored the blood spreading across her shirt. "Reaper, stand down," Shaw's voice over the radio. "You're wounded. Let the team handle it." Alexandria didn't answer. She ran. Out of the conference room, down the hallway, following the sound of footsteps ahead. Keller was fast for 62, desperate. He knew this was his only chance. Alexandria was faster. She caught him at the stairwell, grabbed his jacket, yanked him backward. He spun, tried to bring his weapon up. She knocked it aside, drove her fist into his face. Once, twice. Keller stumbled, fell against the railing. "It's over," Alexandria said. Blood ran down her arm. The pain was distant, irrelevant. "You're not walking out of here." "Then neither are you." Keller's finger moved to his phone. The dead man's switch. One button. Everything uploads. "Are you ready for that? Ready to destroy everything to stop me?" Alexandria looked at him, at his finger hovering over the screen. She thought about Evelyn, about Dylan Hartley, about the 9 operators who had died because of this man. "Do it," she said. Keller blinked. "What?" "Push the button. Upload everything. Expose every operation. Compromise every asset. Do it." "You're bluffing. Try me." They stared at each other. 2 wills. 2 absolutes. Keller's finger twitched toward the button. "Freeze!" Vance appeared at the top of the stairs, weapon aimed at Keller's head. But it wasn't Vance's voice that made Keller stop. It was the voice behind him. Quinn Hartley stood on the landing below, laptop open, expression fierce. "I've been tracking your phone since Building 7, Quinn said. Her hands shook on the laptop. "When you mentioned the dead man's switch, I started brute forcing the encryption. Took 17 minutes, 3 failed attempts that almost triggered the upload." She showed the screen, lines of code, error messages. Finally, override complete. "I rerouted the signal. Your laptop is uploading now, but not to WikiLeaks, to NCIS servers. Everything you have, every name, every operation." Quinn's voice cracked. "My brother was better at this than me, smarter, faster, but he's dead because of you, so I had to be good enough." She closed the laptop with shaking hands. "This is for Dylan." Keller's face went white. "That's not possible. I'm a communications specialist. This is what I do." Keller lunged, not at Quinn, at Alexandria. He moved faster than she expected for a man his age. Decades of CIA training still wired into muscle memory. Grabbed her wounded shoulder. Pain exploded, white hot, blinding. "If I go down," he snarled, "you come with me." He shoved her toward the railing, tried to throw her over. 3 stories to concrete below. Alexandria's vision blurred. The pain made her weak, made her slow. But Evelyn's voice cut through the agony. "Pain is temporary, death is permanent. Choose." Alexandria twisted, used Keller's momentum against him. Let him push past her center of gravity. Keller realized his mistake too late. His eyes widened, not with fear, with fury. The rage of a man who'd spent 40 years building an empire, only to be beaten by someone a third his age. "This isn't over," he hissed. "The network survives." Alexandria drove her boot into his chest, hard. Keller hit the railing. The old metal groaned, gave way. He flipped over, fell. For 3 seconds there was only silence. Then the sound of impact. Final. Absolute. Alexandria leaned over the railing, looked down. Keller lay on the concrete below, not moving, blood spreading in a dark pool. Vance appeared at her side. "You okay?" "No, but I'm alive." That's what matters. Admiral Shaw's tactical team secured the building. Medics arrived. Alexandria's shoulder was field-dressed. Not serious. Through and through. Clean. Lucky. Ashford was still alive. Barely. Taken away on a stretcher. He would survive to face trial. Ghost was dead. So was Keller. In the conference room, Quinn's laptop had captured everything. Every file. Every name. Every transaction. The entire network exposed in digital detail. "We got them," Vance said quietly. "All of them." "Did we?" Alexandria looked at the evidence, at the names scrolling past. Dozens of people. Hundreds. A network that had taken 40 years to build. "Or did we just cut off one head?" "Then we'll cut off the rest." Vance's voice was certain, final, for as long as it takes. Admiral Shaw approached, looked at Alexandria's shoulder, at the blood, at the exhaustion written across her face. "You did good work, Commander. Better than good. Exceptional. Evelyn trained me well." "Yes, she did." Shaw paused. "How do you feel?" Alexandria thought about it, about Evelyn dying in her arms, about the promise she had made, about everything that had happened in the last 72 hours. "I feel like I kept my word," she said finally. Shaw nodded. "Captain Monroe would be proud. Hell, I'm proud. You took down a network we've been hunting for years, exposed corruption at the highest levels, saved lives we'll never be able to count. At what cost? Does it matter?" Alexandria looked at Vance, at Quinn, at the bodies being carried out in bags. "I suppose not." 3 weeks later, Arlington National Cemetery. The sky was the kind of clear blue that made everything else seem unreal. Like the world was a painting and someone had forgotten to add clouds. 3 flag-draped coffins sat on trestles. Operators killed in missions compromised by Keller's network. Finally being honored. Finally being remembered. Alexandria stood in her dress uniform. White gloves. Cover at the proper angle. Every detail perfect. The honor guard folded the flags with practiced precision. Each fold deliberate. Each movement a testament to the lives being honored. Taps played. The notes hung in the air like grief made audible. Families wept. Colleagues saluted. And somewhere in a maximum security facility, Marcus Ashford was beginning a sentence that would last the rest of his life. Lieutenant Bridget Callahan in the cell next door. Donovan Graves in solitary. All of them facing charges that would never allow freedom again. Admiral Shaw appeared at Alexandria's side as the ceremony concluded. "It's done," Shaw said quietly. "Is it?" "The network is dismantled. 47 arrests so far. More coming. Financial accounts frozen. Operations shut down. It's done." Alexandria watched the coffins being loaded into hearses. Keller said the network was bigger than any one person, that it was an idea. You can't kill an idea. Maybe not, but you can discredit it, expose it, make it something people are ashamed to be part of instead of something they aspire to. Shaw paused. "That's what you did." "We did. Vance, Quinn, all of us." "Yes, which brings me to why I'm here." Shaw handed Alexandria a folder. Inside was a document, classified authorization, a new unit, a task force designed specifically to hunt down and eliminate networks like the one Keller had built. "I want you to lead it," Shaw said. "Build a team, recruit from any branch, any agency, whatever you need. Your mission is to find these networks before they can do the damage Keller's did. You want me to command it. You've proven you can do the job. Now prove you can build a team that's just as good." Alexandria looked at the document, at the weight of what Shaw was offering. Can I choose my own people? Within reason. Vance, Quinn Hartley. Done. Who else? I'll let you know. Shaw smiled. I figured you'd say that. You have 48 hours to give me a roster. After that, we move. She started to walk away, stopped, turned back. One more thing. Captain Monroe. I'm putting her name on the wall at Coronado, the operator's memorial. She deserves to be remembered. Alexandria's throat tightened. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank yourself. You kept your promise to her. That's worth something. Shaw walked away. Alexandria stood alone for a moment, looking at the graves, at the flags, at the cost of honor in a world that often forgot what honor meant. Then she opened the folder again, read the details of what Shaw was offering, the scope, the authority, the mission. This was what Evelyn had trained her for, not just to be an operator, but to be a guardian, someone who stood between the corruption and the people who still believed in something better. She closed the folder, made her decision. That night, Alexandria drove to the memorial wall at Coronado. The base was quiet. Most personnel were off duty. The training grounds empty. Only the sound of surf in the distance, eternal, unchanging. She found Evelyn's name on the wall, freshly carved. The stone still sharp and clean. Captain Evelyn Monroe, SEAL Team 9, gave her life in service to her country, Syria, 2022. Alexandria reached out, traced the letters with her fingers. I kept my promise, she said quietly. Her voice cracked. She pressed her forehead against the cold stone. I miss you. Every day, every mission, every time I make a decision, I hear your voice asking, is this the right thing? And I don't always know the answer. A tear ran down her cheek. The first she'd allowed herself since Syria. But I'm trying. God, I'm trying so hard to be what you made me, to protect what you built, to make sure no one else has to die the way you did. She straightened, wiped her eyes. The waves crashed in the darkness. Shaw gave me a team, a mission, to hunt the ones who are left, to make sure what happened to you doesn't happen to anyone else. She pulled out the folder Shaw had given her, the authorization for Task Force Guardian. I'm scared, she admitted. Scared I won't be good enough. Scared I'll make mistakes. Scared I'll get people killed trying to live up to what you taught me. The memorial wall offered no answers, just stone and names and the weight of sacrifice. But I'm going to try anyway, because that's what you would have done, because someone has to stand between the corruption and the people who still believe, because that's what honor means. She stood, saluted the wall, saluted Evelyn's name. Thank you for everything, for seeing something in me that nobody else saw, for making me into something the enemy learned to fear, for teaching me that being strong doesn't mean never being afraid. It means being afraid and moving forward anyway. The waves crashed again, the sound of something eternal, something that would continue long after all of them were gone. Alexandria walked back to her truck. Tomorrow she would fly to Paris, would begin the hunt for Henri Dumont, would take the first step in a mission that might last years, decades, the rest of her life. But tonight she had kept her promise. Tonight, Evelyn Monroe could rest. The next morning, Alexandria stood in front of Building 6. The sun was just rising over the Pacific, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Vance appeared beside her, coffee in one hand, the other resting on his sidearm. Old habits. Ready? He asked. As I'll ever be. That's all anyone can be. Quinn joined them. Then 6 other operators, recruited from different branches, different specialties, all of them with one thing in common. They had all lost someone to betrayal, to corruption, to the kind of evil that wore a uniform and smiled while it destroyed lives. Paris awaits, Vance said, along with a banker who thinks he's untouchable. He's wrong, Alexandria said. Yes, he is, because he doesn't know about you. about the Reaper, about what happens when you make an enemy of someone who's already lost everything that mattered. Alexandria thought about that, about Evelyn, about the promise, about the path that had led from a Syrian street to this moment. I haven't lost everything, she said finally. I still have honor. I still have purpose. And I still have a team worth fighting for. She looked at each of them. Vance, Quinn, the others. Let's go to work. They walked toward the transport vehicle. 8 shadows in the morning light, moving with purpose, with certainty. Behind them, the memorial wall stood silent, names carved in stone, promises kept and yet to be kept. And on that wall, among all the others, Evelyn Monroe's name caught the first light of dawn. 6 months later, a secure facility outside Paris, Henri Dumont sat in an interrogation room, hands cuffed, face pale, the arrogance of a man who had believed himself untouchable, stripped away by reality. Across from him, Alexandria Thorne reviewed documents, financial records, communications, the entire network Dumont had helped maintain. 47 accounts, she said, spread across 12 countries, over $300 million, all of it blood money, payment for betrayal. Dumont said nothing. You want to know the funny thing? Alexandria continued. Keller told me the network was bigger than any one person, that it would survive, that we could never stop it. She looked up. He was right. The network did survive. For a while, until we found you. And through you, we found the others. One by one, account by account, name by name. She closed the folder. You were the key. The banker who thought he was smart enough to hide, to launder the money without leaving traces. But you did leave traces. Quinn found them, followed them, and now we have everything. You think this ends it? Dumont's voice was hoarse, broken. You think because you caught me, the system collapses? No, I think it's wounded, damaged, exposed, and that's enough for now. Because every name we expose, every account we freeze, every network we dismantle, that's one less threat to the people who serve. She stood. You're going to prison for a very long time, and you're going to spend every day there thinking about the choice you made, about valuing money over honor, about helping people who sold soldiers for profit. Dumont looked at her with something like desperation. What do you want from me? Nothing. I already have everything I need. Your files, your contacts, your entire operation. Then why are you here? Alexandria paused at the door, looked back. Because I promised someone I would stop people like you, and I wanted you to know that promise has been kept. She walked out. In the observation room, Vance and Quinn were waiting. He gave us 12 more names, Quinn said, before you even walked in, terrified, talking as fast as he could. Good. Process them. Cross-reference with what we already have. Build the case. Already done. Quinn smiled. It was the first real smile Alexandria had seen from her in months. We're getting good at this. Yes, we are. Vance checked his watch. Transport to Berlin leaves in 3 hours. German intelligence thinks they've found another cell. Former Stasi officers working with what's left of Keller's network. Then we go to Berlin. They walked out of the facility, into the Paris sunlight, a city that had stood for centuries, that had survived wars and revolutions and occupations, that endured, like honor, like promises, like the memory of people who died believing in something better. Alexandria looked up at the sky, clear blue, infinite. Somewhere in that infinity, she imagined Evelyn watching, proud, satisfied, the promise kept, the mission ongoing, the fight never ending, but worth it, always worth it, for the people who came after, for the operators who still believed, for a world that needed guardians who remembered what honor meant. Alexandria Thorne climbed into the transport vehicle. Behind her, Paris continued, eternal, unchanging. Ahead, Berlin waited, and after Berlin, another city, another network, another battle. But she was ready. She had been trained by the best, forged in fire, tested in ways that would have broken most people, and she had kept her promise. That was enough. That was everything. The transport pulled away, headed for the airport, for the next mission, for whatever came next. And in the rearview mirror, the city faded, but the mission remained, always.